Hey, hope everything's well. It's Thursday, the day after Christmas, and I'm home alone. So I figured I'd make this video now because I'm not sure if I'll have the chance to later, but I'm going to do my essentially year in review. So throughout this year, I've been. Oh no, I have no memory on the memory card? Hold on. Okay, well, um, I have less memory on my memory cards than I thought, but 36 minutes. This is probably going to be a long video, so I might have to do it in two parts. But yeah, I thought I'd do my year in review because I'm home alone. And I don't really like talking about this. I believe I'll be home alone for about an hour or two before people get back. And yeah, this is something I just kind of want to discuss privately with myself in the camera because I don't think my family doesn't really understand why I go through, why I do this stuff. I mean, most people I don't think would. It is a bit strange to talk to yourself in front of a camera, but consider it my journaling. And they definitely don't understand why I tally and keep track of my life on a calendar. So don't mind the sketches. This is my old high school, what's it called? Art book from art class. But I use it to store all of this, which is the more important stuff. Well, I think drawing's important, but in the sense that as of right now, in this point in my life, this is more. Oh my god, I just ripped it. This is more relevant to kind of the position I'm in and where I'm trying to go. Now, I did make the mistake of not taking the tape off, but should be okay as long as I be careful, which I was not. I think that's all of it, yeah. Okay, so, sorry for my bed. I don't have a proper bed sheet at the moment. We're currently in the struggle right now. You know, we're broke, and we just make do with what we have, so. Yeah, anyways, like I was saying, I don't particularly enjoy, or I don't feel comfortable talking about this stuff with anyone, especially not people in my family, because it just goes on deaf ears, and it's a lot of wasted effort, and moreover than that, and more so, the fact that when you discuss ambition, like you kind of talk about the things you want to do with yourself, maybe this is just me, but I feel like the more I talk about something, the less it actually happens. So I rather say nothing and work on these things than say something to someone and for it to never happen. So I'm sure the reality of life is that there are a million things you have that you'd like to do that you just never get the chance to, that are ideas in your head, Everyone has ideas, but I'm sure even at the end of life, someone who's disciplined and productive still has ideas left on the table. And that's just the reality of things, is you'll never get to everything you want to do, so it's better to just keep them to yourself sometimes. Maybe that's a bad attitude, I don't know. But anyways, so let's start with the calendar. So this year, I made it. Okay, don't worry about that. I made it my mission to. Sorry, don't mind my doodles. Oh, that's pretty cool. This is I drew a Pegasus when I was must have been 14. This is Christina's rendition of me. Pretty good, yeah. Here's a horse I drew. This is when I first got the sketchbook. I remember drawing this. It was on the cover of like a drawing, one of those drawing books that teach you how to draw things. And I just tried copying it. It was let's see if I can brightness a bit, make it less hot. Okay. So let's start with. Now there's two different calendars. There is a workout calendar and a work calendar. We're gonna compare both at the same time. So let's try and separate these. Let me pause it so I can save memory while I do this. Okay, so on the left side, you can see those in the frame. They're not as in frame as I like. So, yes, on the left here, we'll have this calendar. The ones on the left, they're going to be the calendar on the left is times I woke up and my workout routine, basically. And later it evolves into more, especially in November and December. But yeah, and then on the right is how many hours we worked for. So I don't know if you can see that well. But I'll try and lift it up as I'm talking about one. So yeah, so starting in 2024, I made it my mission to document my effort, basically, because the goal of the year and the goal of the year essentially was to make my worst days better. I found that I was having a lot of days where I just, like, my bad days were days where I literally was not trying. I wasn't doing anything. I didn't do any fitness. I didn't do any work. I didn't make any progress. And I realized that was creating a lot. Coming into this year, I had a major feeling of like, man, I just feel like I'm walking in mud. Like I'm not making any progress. I'm not seeing the results I want to. I feel sluggish. I feel slow. I feel, you know the feeling you get. I mean, some people might not know this. If you haven't ever smoked weed, you're not going to know this feeling. But when you do, at least for me, when I smoke, I get this feeling of like fogginess. I feel like I'm foggy, like I'm not sharp, I'm not on it. I don't feel, when I go talk to people, my social skills are just horrible. Like I'm slow to respond, I'm slow to think, I'm not, and it's not a very good feeling. So coming into this year, that's pretty much the feeling I had from every year previous, which is really, really sad if you think about it. But I want to change that. So that was my goal for the years. I knew I had good days, and I knew when I had a good day, I had a lot of potential. Now, it was just a matter of making every day a good day, but I didn't want to focus on the good days because I felt like they were good enough for where they are now. When the time comes to better those, that's what I'll do. But for this year, what I said to myself is, let's just focus on the bad ones. What am I doing wrong? How can I improve? And I felt like this was a necessary step to seeing results or keeping myself, I guess, a reminder on my wall every morning I woke up of whether the day before was good enough. And yeah, so basically, let's start with, I mean, this looks decent, right? Like, the calendars are pretty full, like, compared to what you'll see in around June, which is, I had essentially a period where I was really on it from January to, I want to say, May. I think May is a good, yeah, May. And then come like June, July, I kind of tapered down a bit. And August was another slow one, and then as September rolled around, I picked things back up, and you'll see the results of this. And in October, it looks like I slowed down a bit, especially with fitness. Jesus, I have all the calendars behind me, by the way, so I'm looking at them right now. And then November and December was so-so, but Anyways, so my at the start of the year, I really started off strong, and I was very, very aggressive on myself to keep consistent, stay disciplined, and I really did a good job in January. Like January, I remember not even that too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, telling myself like, had I just done January every single month, um, I could have accomplished so much more this year, but I didn't. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to go through this to just kind of um, give the timeline and then ask myself, am I happy with this? Because to be honest, I haven't looked at these calendars since I wrote in them, so this is going to be pretty much a fresh perspective for me as well in asking the question, did I do what I set out to do this year? Um, and how did I feel about the year in total? And we'll go into that as soon as we're done all these. But yeah, so you can see January started off really strong. And I remember that, like you can see here, the time at the bottom is when I woke up each day. Um, so you have 6:30, 7, and then it slowly tapers. You can see it taper. 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and you slowly fade into your bad habits again. But you need to constantly remind yourself to not do that. 8:50, 9:30. I remember on the 17th. Perhaps it wasn't. Perhaps. Well, look, I'm so smart. Maybe it wasn't that day specifically, but I remember somewhere in the middle of January having this major fear. Oh, here it was. On the weekend here, 11:20. I remember waking up that day and saying to myself, like, please, please do not turn into the person you were last year. Just, it's been 2 weeks, you've been doing well, just please keep trying. I remember begging myself. Um, and you could even see the reflection in the time I worked that day, which is 3 hours. So something to note, something I want to mention, like, something I want to clarify. Everyone says they work more than they actually do. And trust me, I know this for fact. I'm not the hardest working person in my house. I know that. Between my sister and my brother, in terms of the work they do on work, like if we ignore this calendar, in terms of what they do with this, they are so much better than me. And I know that. But I've timed both of them without them knowing. And everyone thinks they work more than they do. These hours, the hours I worked, are just pure work. Anytime I stepped away from my computer, anytime I took a break, went to the washroom, went to get water, even just to go, like, anytime my ass was not in the seat at my desk, doing work, pressing numbers, if I started watching a video that I thought wasn't productive or beneficial towards my work, the timer goes off, okay? I was very, very, very strict about this calendar here. And this is the one I was very, very interested in seeing because this is kind of where I wanted to focus here. Like, I know the health thing, I mean, I've never really been the most fit person in the world. I never really did fitness that intensely or with that much or with as much focus as I have this year, or with as much like need, I guess, is the better way of putting it. Like I feel like at this point I need to do some sort of fitness to feel productive. But any year prior to this one, I really didn't give a fuck about it. Like, it wasn't something I worried about. It wasn't something I tried. I had phases, you go through a 3-month phase and then you just give up. But the work one was the one I was really interested in seeing because I wanted to be more productive. I wanted to push my career forward. This is the point of the year, Above all else, the reason I did the fitness, the reason I tracked any of these numbers, the reason I want to wake up on time, the reason I want to eat better, it's all to do with those numbers because I'm trying to improve the numbers I see there. And I know necessarily the more you work isn't the better. It's more so like what you're choosing to do and how you're doing it. And that's something That's something I really understood throughout this year. Is it doesn't matter if you put 12 hours or 10 hours. It's more about, are you doing the right things? But besides that, everything I did this year was to serve that calendar, to serve these numbers, because at the end of the day, you're not getting ahead. Yes, working smarter is better, but you're not getting ahead working 3 and 2 hours. Like, that is not good enough. So that was the focus. That's why I did any of this. And I don't remember my point that I was making, but anyways, yeah, January started off really strong. I remember going into February, I felt really good about myself. I was feeling confident, and actually, yeah, that's another point I want to bring up is people, everyone neglects this stuff. Like, the reason I don't talk about it in my family, it's not because they don't understand it. They very well understand the importance of sleep, the importance of fitness. Everyone understands that. Nobody doesn't understand that. But not a lot of people try to hold themselves accountable. Not a lot of people try to discipline themselves. They feel like they need someone to do that for them, and um, they don't. They understand that one helps the other, but nobody really understands the relationship until they feel it, until they see it, until they do this kind of work to understand it. And yeah, like I said before, people. Oh, that's the point I was making before. People think they work more than they do. I've heard plenty of my friends say they do, oh, I work 12 hours a day, 12 hours a day. But let's be completely honest. Are you on your phone for 6 hours a day? Does your screen time say 6 hours a day? Well, then deduct 6 hours. Like, that's the reality of it. Deduct 6 hours. You work for 6 hours today. That's the true productive amount of work you did in that day. You know, every for every 20 minutes you worked, maybe you took a break on your phone, scrolled a bit, I don't know, updated your Instagram story, replied to a DM, messaged someone back. Like, every time you break that focus is another 10 to 20 minutes you have to spend to even get back focused, or to get focused again. So these numbers, and this is something really hard for me to understand and kind of deal with, is seeing people around me in their rooms for so long and like on their computers for so long while I'm taking a break. And I remember I felt like I wasn't my work was inadequate because I wasn't on my computer the entire day. I was taking breaks and whatnot. And the reality is it doesn't matter. It, like, take a break if you need to, but just make sure the break you're taking is productive. Take like, I don't know how to explain this well, but don't compare yourself. When you're doing this, you have to have a really good relationship with these calendars, because they can easily start to mess with you and mess with your ability to kind of bounce back, your ability to take the day for what it is in front of you instead of what you chose to do before. Like, it can become a vicious cycle of seeing the previous day and not thinking you did good enough, therefore not thinking you'll achieve what you need to. And you'll see later in the next couple of months that idea really started to eat at me for a bit. But I learned, I guess I'm still learning, because it is hard to wake up and look at this calendar and see it. For example, on this one, it's hard to wake up and see a 0 on there. To know that I didn't get to touch anything that day. It hurts. It really does. And it's funny because people think you have the most time on the weekends to do whatever you want. But it's actually, the weekends are the busiest time, because if you're not working 9 to 5, if you're self-employed or whatever you want to call it, the weekends are actually the hardest times to get work done, because that's when everyone's off. That's when everyone needs you, and asks you for help around the house or whatnot, and yeah, you lose a lot of time on the weekends. I don't agree with people saying it's easy to work weekends. I just don't think that's true at all. I think it's the hardest to work at weekends. And when everyone's busy doing their own thing, that's when you can be your most productive. So even if you are self-employed, if you're 23 years old like me, you're in your parents' house, and you're living with four to you're living with 4 to 7 other people at any given time. Yeah, you don't get shit done on the weekends. That's just the reality of it. You know, your family's gonna need your help. That's gonna be your only time to go out and do the whatever chores you need to, or whatever you have on your to-do list. Anyways, this is dragging on a bit. I'm gonna speed it up. Anyways, January I started off strong. I was really happy with January. Moving on. Moving on to February. Now February was a bit better. The X's. Now, what do the X's mean? That is something I'm not going to discuss, but I think if you are, I guess, someone with a lot of vices, you would understand what that is. Yeah, so you could see in February, right off the bat, compared to January, this calendar's a lot more empty. This is the fitness really started to get heavy on me, especially when I was kicking things into a higher gear for some projects I was working on, or for a project I was working on. You can see there's some bigger numbers here now. There's a couple 11s, 9s, 8s. That's usually the threshold I want to aim to be in as often as I can, is around from anywhere from the 6 to 11 is where I would, anywhere in there is where I'd like to be every day, as much as possible. But yeah, at the same time, it becomes really hard and exhausting to try and do that as consistently as possible on top of maintaining your fitness. But the reality is you have to do that because you're not going to get more time in the day. It's not going to change. Something I started to learn the hard way is it's not going to happen if you just don't do it, you know? If you're not willing to do it today, it's not going to happen tomorrow. The change happens as soon as you put your foot down and decide to do what you need to do. And for as difficult as it is, and I'm sure everyone has heard someone in their life say, "Oh, I'm just too tired to work out." And the reality is those people that are going to the gym or going on their runs or their walks or whatever you do, you don't have to do something intense. Just do something. The people that are doing that after they work are tired too. Nobody's not tired. You just have to do it. So the excuse of "I'm too tired to do it this day" is the attitude that sets you behind on your goals. And I ran into this, and you'll see it more. This is something I ran into big time in 1 month in particular. I don't remember which month it was, but we will see it. But yeah, it was starting to hit me, and I was kind of caving into that attitude, like I'm just too tired. And actually, something that started to pop up in my head, which is a pretty toxic attitude, was I'll just stay up later and I'll try and fit it in. I'll just lose some sleep. That was an attitude that I had. That mindset didn't take effect in this month yet, but I remember feeling it in the back of my mind. I remember hearing that voice in the back of my head starting around February was just lose some sleep. Just lose some sleep and do what you need to. And let me tell you, that is not a good attitude. That's a one-way recipe to completely fuck up your consistency. Do not, and I can't stress this enough. the most valuable lesson I've learned this year, bar none, is do not give up consistency in sleep for consistency in anything else. As soon as your sleep schedule shifts, or you go to bed later, or you go to bed early, you ruin everything. Everything goes out the window. Sleep is the single most important thing of everyone's day. You need to get the right amount of sleep, and you need to sleep at the right times. I don't care if you are getting your 8 hours, but you're sleeping from 3 in the morning until 10 in the after, or 10 the next day. It's not the same quality of sleep, and it's also not going to set you up properly for the next day to take the day in your own hands. Essentially, you won't have the same amount of enthusiasm for the day if you get sleep in the proper time zone or schedule. That's actually great advice that I should take today, because my sleep schedule at this very moment is fucked up. So yeah, lesson's just gonna keep repeating itself until I learn it. So, but anyways, that's something to express to anyone that needs to hear it. Do not go to bed at 4 in the morning and wake up at 11 the next day. That is good for no one. People around you aren't going to be impressed, and you're not going to be impressed. You're gonna start your day sluggish, and you're gonna start it slow, and then every subsequent day that you continue that schedule is gonna eat at your mental. Maybe physically you're not feeling any difference, but mentally you will feel the difference. You'll be disappointed, you'll be frustrated, and then everything's just gonna tumble downwards. Being consistent is a very, very, very delicate balance of everything. And if one thing, or I shouldn't say being consistent, but being motivated. Motivation is a very, very delicate balance of everything. And as soon as something's off, maybe you didn't eat as well as you wanted to that day. Maybe you didn't work for as many hours as you wanted to. Maybe you slacked off when you worked out. Maybe you didn't get everything on your checklist done. Maybe if you're going to bed feeling somewhat unaccomplished that day, you're going to lose your motivation the next day. So if you're not hitting everything, you will not stay motivated. And the reality of life, you could be Superman, you could be David Goggins, you can be fucking, I don't know, someone that is resilient. You could be anyone. But there's going to come a point where something does go wrong, or an unexpected event in your life happens that you had no control over, and it throws things off. Maybe it throws your sleep schedule off. Maybe it throws the amount of work you can do in a day off. Maybe you can't work out in a day instead. You will lose motivation. Motivation is very much a domino effect of all the things that you did right for yourself previously coming to assist you in the time that you need it, or in the present. It's not something you always have. It is something you will lose eventually, and it is something you have to work to set up again. But consistency is just about pushing through that feeling and continuing to build those blocks over and over again. Even when they fall over, even when they stop connecting, even when there's a gap in the dominoes, you need to have the foresight to understand that this is what I need to do, despite the fact that I'm not feeling up to it. That is consistency. And like I said before, everyone that goes to the gym, everyone that does their run is tired. You just have to do it anyways. It's not about feeling up to it. It's about just doing it anyways. That's what consistency is. And that's what a surprising amount of people fail to kind of understand is it's not a choice. It's something that needs to be done. Yeah, it's not a choice at all. So, anyways, February was pretty good. There were some stumbles. Didn't get as much fitness as I wanted to in the day and whatnot, but I was still feeling good. I want to mention something about my goals for the year. one of my goals for the year was to work out every day of the year. 365 days, clean diet. Now that did not happen. Obviously, as you can see, it actually didn't happen within the first month. And I remember that feeling like a pretty big defeat because so early in the year, I had already lost that goal, or I had already lost the opportunity to achieve that goal. But I remember telling myself at that point, okay, you're not going to work out every day. Maybe that's something that's not going to happen this year. But you still have to commit to doing it every day that you can. We'll see later that didn't happen either, but I guess my point is the telling myself that was me understanding what I just talked about. Like, consistency doesn't come from wanting to do something. Consistency comes from doing it even on the days you don't want to. This was my schedule that I made for myself at the start of the year. I did not follow this at all. And we'll get into it later, but this was very I'll put it right here for anyone to want to copy. If you can follow this every day, you will be unstoppable. And one of the key components of this schedule is to get rid of your phone. No phone. Allow your phone, maybe, I think I have some time designated to it. Or maybe I didn't. Okay, this is very extreme then. But, yeah, no phone, man. Like, phone is your worst enemy. Your phone is, I can't even put it into words, but you guys, nobody realizes how much damage their phone is doing to them. I don't care if you're disciplined with it. I don't care if you only text people at certain times of the day. I know it's become a necessity in our day-to-day lives. Like, you can't go and you can't establish a career if you're not calling people back or messaging people back. And it is scary to think that that's what the world has become. If you really take the time to think about how deeply ingrained it is really a parasite. That the phone, how much it's dug its way into our day-to-day living. It is scary, but at the end of the day, I know you can't live a life without texting or phone calls or emails. It's just not life anymore, and that's something. And though it's not ideal for someone that wants to kind of get themselves off the grid and just live as disciplined as they can, it's just an obstacle you'll have to find a way to overcome. But that schedule, had I followed that through the entire year, I would definitely be unstoppable today. And we'll talk about it more later, like I said, but I think the most disappointing part of the year is just that I didn't follow that. And it's not impossible, okay? I know that seems like a very extreme schedule to do every day, but it's not impossible. And like I said, there's going to be things that are out of your control that come into play, but for the most part, that is basically a one-way ticket to success and feeling fulfillment. Yeah. So I'm going to quickly dump this footage because I have no more memory card space, but we'll come back and continue after. So I'll be right back. I'll try to make this quick because I'm tired and there's not really much on a month-by-month basis that I think I want to say. I don't have any script for this or anything, so sorry if this is a bit all over the place. But I think we left off on March. So, March was pretty good as well. I mean, there are a lot of zeros where I wish there weren't. So March is where the burnout kind of started to get to me. I mean, sleep schedule was good. I did a good amount of fitness as well. I was happy with how much fitness I did. I was taking care of myself, eating well. But you can kind of see, in this calendar specifically, you can start to see where all my inexperience, or I guess my lack of consistency previously, comes into play, because I needed more breaks more frequently. I remember throughout all of February, one project took the entirety of that month, and I really pushed myself up to that point, the most I had ever pushed myself with anything I've done, to get it done not only as fast as I could, but also as best as I could. I put a lot of effort into that video, and that video specifically was my the 6 destinations, 6 different styles video I did. And it was very, 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 very mentally draining, especially the Milan one. And I think if you go back and watch those videos, the Milan video specifically, you could tell has the most love and care put into it. I don't want to talk about the project specifically too much, because it's not what this conversation is supposed to be about. But I've always been a bit obsessive with my work and making sure everything's exactly how it should be. But you know, you're only as obsessive as you've been before up to that point. So every time you know, if you take steps forward, you become more obsessive than you were last time, and more obsessive. As you learn and develop your skills in your career, you find more things to obsess over and more details to adjust. And it's not a matter of I wouldn't have done that before, it's just that I didn't know those things existed or that effort could be put into a project. So as you develop more, you learn more about, I guess you broaden and also hone your skill set to encompass more of your industry, or your field, but also be better at the core things you started with, and that kind of spreads into your field. So eventually you become, well, at least what I'm trying to do is become like an independent, like I want to be as independent as possible when I create. I want my work to be mine, with the exception of you know, certain help from certain people and whatnot. But the point is, I don't want to have a 15-person team to get a project done. I just want it to be me and maybe 2 or 3 other people. I want it to be at the level that a 15-person team would achieve. And I think that's very possible. I don't think that's impossible at all. The issue is that it takes a lot of there's a lot of mental tax that comes with that, because a lot of the decision making is you, and a lot of the creative choice is you, and a lot of the effort isn't going to come from anyone else but you know? So that can definitely get to you. And after finishing that project in February, having been so meticulous about these small details throughout the project, I maybe made the poor decision to work on the tennis documentary again and try and do as much as I can on it, and it just didn't. It was very frustrating. It was a very slow process. I remember when I was editing, I think I got 5 seconds worth of editing done a day. Like, I'm pretty sure 6 hours, 10 hours, 9 hours. That was all the documentary, and I'm pretty sure each day I think I finished maybe 5 to 10 seconds of the length of the documentary a day. So there was actually the intro portion of the documentary, I think I was doing 2 seconds a day. And it's a 2-minute sequence in total, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I think, something like that. And making that was a very fulfilling process, but oh my God, was it frustrating, and it just took so much out of me. But it took a lot out of me, and I started to burn out fast, because I was pushing myself to do it and to work on it, even when I felt like I had nothing left. And that's what you need to do. that wasn't a problem at all. Doing that, I don't think was a problem. I'll get more into burnout in a second and how I feel about it, and how I feel like it's become this trendy, kind of like this trendy lingo people use to discuss how much they actually work, when in reality it can easily start to become an excuse. Um, yeah, I'll get more into that maybe later, or maybe I'll forget about it. I don't know, but yeah, eventually I just burnt out, and you can see there's a lot of zeros there. I just couldn't get myself to sit on my desk. I think I have some footage of me walking up to my desk and then just staring at it for like 30 minutes and then walking away. I was pretty, it was bad. Um, but yeah, so it was a frustrating month. It was a very frustrating month, but all things considered, not horrible. I mean, there's a lot of hardworking days where I did 11 hours and I did workouts. I'm working at still a decent time. You can notice now there's no more 6 or 7 a.m. wake ups. It's starting to slip a bit. But that was March in total. I mean, a decent month, albeit a bit of a forgettable one. But it is what it is. But I do remember staring at the zeros in that month and being really disappointed. I remember saying, okay, I don't want zeros this month, or as few as possible. And there still are. There's I think 3 days where I didn't do anything. But I pushed myself in work-wise. I was like, okay, you're not slipping. I'm not going to let myself slack. You are going to push this month for work. And you can see, I think this is probably one of my better months, all things considered. The average looks like around 6 to 7, which is great. There's a lot of 10s, there's a couple 9s and 8s, which is awesome. Maybe it's bad that I'm saying it's awesome to work on, but it's fulfilling to know you're moving forward. And to be honest, some days you don't move forward, and you could still work 8, 9 hours a day and make no progress. But it's hard to remember every single day and how productive I actually was in moving my career forward. But general consensus is having a decent sized number means you at least tried that day, is essentially what I'm pointing out here. But you can see I really I've tried to be consistent, and I think I was mostly successful in that endeavor, but at the cost of fitness. Now you could see it took a hit. Like, out of a 30-day month, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, I missed 5 days. That's actually more than I thought. It looks a bit deceptive. But something you'll notice, and this is a big problem, is early in the year I was having a really hard time with dealing with days that I missed workouts, right? So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days straight of working out or doing some sort of fitness. To what degree that was, I don't know. It's like some are 30 minutes, which is not very good, but at least I was there. At least I showed up. But I missed a day. It would eat at me. The idea that that I broke my streak would really get to me. And it's important not to focus on those things when you're trying to be consistent. Because, I mean, in general, in life, it doesn't matter if you're there every single day. It doesn't matter if you have a 200, 300 day streak. It doesn't matter if in the middle of that streak you fuck up. It doesn't matter if you fuck up, okay? What matters is that you get up and you try again. It's not about, I missed 5 days, that was horrible month, I can't keep going, like I'm a disappointment. That's not the point of it. The point of it is, okay, you missed 5 days. Let's try and get those 5 days back in the next month, or let's try and be more consistent. Let's try and be better the next month. That's what it's all about. And sorry, I'm not sounding very mind blowing, I guess, but it's simple. It's simple, but it's really hard to keep yourself on track sometimes. Um, and it's and I'm the reason I say something like this is I know I'm not saying anything. I know I'm not saying anything that's not already understood, but you can understand it, but it doesn't mean you're going to implement it in your life. And the reason I emphasize this is because it's important to hear from someone else so that you can, it's important to hear from someone else so that you can confirm with yourself that no, this is the way it should, this is the way I should be thinking. Because everyone knows you have to get up again and try again. I mean, you hear it all the time from social media quotes or wherever the fuck you've heard them in movies, I'm sure. In Rocky, he says, it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how, I don't even know what the fuck the quote is, but the point is, is everyone understands that concept. No, everybody knows this concept of consistency and, you know, getting up the next day and getting at it again, despite of what you did the other day. But it's, I'm telling you, it's not, nobody implements it in their life. It's not, it's simple, but it's not easy. And I understand that. It's not easy. It is very hard and very mentally draining, and it's difficult because we've had so many bad habits that we let ourselves get away with that it's difficult to do the right thing for ourselves. And it's sad to say that, but that's the way life is for a lot of people. Most people. It's actually more rare that I meet someone that is very disciplined in the sense that they do everything they need to for themselves, and it's more likely that I find and talk to someone that is gluttonous, that is gives into their vices, you know, eats poorly, doesn't watch themselves and take care of their body and their mental health or physical health, and people that don't aren't willing to work for goals, and it's a lot less likely that I find someone that does all that stuff. Um, yeah, I don't really know if that made much sense. I'm sorry, I sound really mumbly right now. It's not good. Yeah, be better. Um, yeah, my train of thought isn't very good right now. So that was an okay month for fitness. I had a lot I wanted to improve. So we get to May, which I'm actually really happy with. In May I'm pretty proud of. I remember May specifically being a month where I felt very fulfilled. Very like I typically in my life, whenever I try something, and I'm almost confident nearly everyone can relate to this. The most people try things is for 3 months, and then that's when they start to cave and give up and things shut down. For me specifically, due to high school and me not having a great um, relationship, I guess is the right way to say it with high school. Me not having had a great relationship with high school, October is usually the month I guess having there's like it's not I don't want to call it trauma because the reality is whether I did well in high school or not isn't. I knew even in high school that it wasn't gonna change my life forever. You know, it's not gonna. It doesn't mean I'm gonna be the failure for the rest of my life. I knew that. But I think just the way I treated myself in high school, the way I went about it, the way I didn't care about it and neglected discipline and any value in my life, I guess, I didn't really provide myself with at that point. So every start of the year, I would be excited and motivated to try, and then something would go wrong. And typically, when I was in high school, the first obstacle that came my way would shut me down, and it was always in October. I remember this so vividly. Always in October would everything go wrong, and I would just revert back to the person I was. So I guess May, in a sense, was me proving to myself that I could commit. I could continue past the. I could continue past the 3 to 4 month point, which is where everyone gives up. October is something separate, and that is actually October is something separate, and that's something I knew. Well, to be honest, I wasn't thinking about it at this point, but I was more so thinking about the 3 to 4 month idea of, where people crash and burn is usually March, May, sometimes April. 6 months, people start to give up, and that idea to me, I just didn't want to be me. I knew if I get past 3 months, I can keep going. This is, it's possible. I had never really committed myself more to trying to be better past the 3 month mark. It was always that period. I remember in high school, we were going on a trip to Italy, and I set out 3 months before the trip to get myself in better shape and just look healthier, and I wanted to feel better because I wanted to enjoy the trip. And I committed to that. But as soon as the trip came around and was over, I just stopped. I stopped any sort of discipline I had because I felt, well, that was my goal. I kind of clocked out. This being a bit of a different situation, this is more like trying to change who I am, trying to fix myself indefinitely. There's no give up once the year's over. I just want to do it for the year or whatever. It's like, this is me now. I want this to be me now. So it was important to me that I didn't crash and burn. And yeah, I think the month kind of speaks for itself. Like, it's, again, no month is perfect, but it is hard to compare to what my life was like previously because I don't have this. I don't have numbers to show. I don't have I don't have everything marked in a calendar to show myself, hey, look how much better you've done this year. But I think you can take my word that this is better than it was last year at this point. But yeah, you could even see it in my sleep schedule. Like, here are the 6:45s again. Again, some days I'm waking up at 6 again, 7:45, 8. It was a solid month. It was a month I was really happy with myself. I felt very accomplished, and I didn't get anything done, like in the sense that I didn't finish any projects, but it's a process, and if you're doing the process the right way, then you're going to get there, but you have to be patient to finish things. It's not about finishing things anyways. It's about, it's about the step-by-step process that you take to get to the completion. So, yeah, I took the right steps, is essentially what I'm saying in March. Cool. Now, something to note, starting in April through to, I think, July, I had volleyball with my friends every Tuesday. And I think that was a big help for not motivation, but a big help as a break. Because it wasn't, you get to see your friends, do something fun. It wasn't like, okay, my break is getting away from my desk and walking down the stairs and watching TV. It was like a healthy break. And there is a difference. There are different kinds of breaks. There are breaks that do good for you, It's going to sound funny, but taking a break where you literally just sit down and think, maybe you're eating something, but you don't have a distraction in front of you, like a TV, like a phone, or something like that is very, very beneficial. Giving yourself time to think and breathe is one of the most important things you can do for yourself, because you should not be distracting yourself. You kind of, this has no scientific backing, but the way I think of it is releasing the stress, releasing the effort you just put in, like the steam in your head. You got to release it, and you don't do that by watching a video on your phone or scrolling on social media or texting people or anything like that. That's not an effective break, because you are kind of you're not allowing your mind to relax and retain everything you've just done and develop from that. You're kind of just moving on to the next thing. Like, you're scrambling everything together. So genuinely, like, sitting and just thinking, some call it staring at a wall, is actually really, really healthy for you. So that is a better break than, like I said, getting off your computer and just going on YouTube and watching a video, which is a very bad habit I still have that I really need to fix. Like, that is one of the things I'm going to be attacking this year. But yeah, like, you need healthy breaks. Healthy breaks are important for developing focus and maintaining focus. It's a part of your discipline. And the reality is, I think I've said that a lot, the reality is, but discipline isn't something you can stop doing. Because when you're not doing it, you're giving into something that is taking away from your discipline or making your discipline worse. You're basically unsharpening the knife. And you can't do that. Discipline needs to be in every step you take in your life. It needs to be a part of every second of your life. Even when you're taking a break, you need to be disciplined enough to take the right break, to read a book, to go for a walk with no music, okay? With no music. To just eat, or to just draw, like, I don't know, whatever works for you. But it has to be something productive. Yeah, so anyways, fitness was alright. Yeah, June was okay. I don't really know what else to say about June. It's not as strong as May. The only thing I really want to say about June is, I think, summer, when summer comes around, it can be really hard to focus. There's a lot of distractions. People are looking to go out more. They want to enjoy the weather more. And that's okay if your intention is to go out and go for a walk, or just enjoy the weather, spend a day with your friends outside. That's okay. But where it starts to become a vice and a problem is when your friends start to ask you every weekend if you want to go out and if you want to drink or do something or hang out. And it's not that, I feel like this is a whole different conversation I need to have, like a whole separate video. But I love my friends. Everyone loves their friends, but they can just as easily be a distraction to where you need to go, and they can just as easily be a vice. And that sounds really bad to call them a vice, because in a lot of ways spending time with friends is healthy and beneficial, but there is a limit, and there is such thing as overdoing it. If you feel like you're someone that needs to see them every weekend when the summer comes around, I get it. You only have so many summers in your life. You know, summer only lasts so long, especially in Canada. I get it. You're only young for so long. You want to have fun. If you feel like you need to do that to be fulfilled, spend your time with your girlfriend and whatever, that is, I'm not here to judge, okay? Everyone has their own way of going at it and their own way of seeing life. But for me personally, and I think I can speak for people that are goal oriented. That sounds so lame to say out loud. I call myself goal oriented. If you're like me, you can't afford to give up that much time, and you also don't want to. You, and then this is where friends become a problem because they're. I love my friends to death. I have nothing but respect for them, but it's hard for me to talk about this because I don't really know how to say this politely, but they just don't have goals in the sense that it needs their attention or it demands their attention. They don't have goals. They do. No, they do. But it's different. I just don't know how to explain it, but what I'm trying to do with my life is change my life, okay? That's what I'm trying to do. What they're trying to do is tick the next box of the traditional lifestyle. Have kids, have a family, find a wife, all that. That's not that's not me. That's not what I want to do right now, at least. And that's essentially their goal. Like that. I don't know how to say this. Listen, I'm not gonna. I don't have the words right now to explain it, but it's different. Okay. So the problem becomes when you are trying to develop yourself in a career that requires a lot of practice, a lot of patience, and a lot of effort, and is very competitive, and you want to be the best you can be. Like, the difference is that I'm trying to see my limits, okay? I'm trying to see where where am I not willing to go? Where's the line for me? Where am I going to say, okay, stop? And I haven't hit that yet. Or where is it no longer possible for me to do anything more? That's what I'm trying to get to. And that's not what anyone else is trying to do in my friend group. So, they want to go out and enjoy themselves while they're young. They want to have fun. They want to see each other. I want to see them too, but I can't do that knowing that I want to see that for myself. If that makes sense. Do you understand that? So, June, July, August become very, very tempting, very, very easy to coast, and very, very, they test your discipline a lot. They test, are you willing to say no for your dreams or for your aspirations? Are you willing to say no? Are you? Because every weekend someone's going to ask you to do something. Literally every weekend. Sometimes you don't even have a choice. Birthdays, sometimes you don't have a choice. That's basically what I wanted to say about June. So, June becomes a very difficult month. And I'm proud to say, now I know this isn't going to look like what I'm going to say, but I'm proud to say that I succeeded for the most part throughout the summer. The first half of the summer, I put my foot down and I said, I told one of my friends this specifically because he asked me, why is it that you're never free? And I said, I'm free. I have time to do what I want. But what I want to do is see something specific for myself. I didn't tell him what that specific thing was or anything like that. I didn't go into detail about it. But I said, I want to see this thing for myself, and to do that, it's going to take a lot of time for myself to get there. And he said, you know what, I understand that. A lot of people don't sacrifice as much time as they should with their friends to get where they want to be. So I understand that you say no a lot. Or I understand why you say no. So, so then what happened here? Oh, so I think someone's home. Well, that's might have to conclude it for today because I'm not going to talk about this stuff while you're here. But, okay, yeah, someone's here. I will continue this conversation later. Okay. We're back. It is a couple days later. It's December 30th right now. I apologize if I seem a little more quiet and timid. I have people home. I won't have the chance to film this any other time, so I have to do it now. I'm going to try and make this quick because I do want to go for a run. It's a nice day today, and I want to be able to go outside for a bit. Yeah, I mean, so I think we left off in July. I think it was July. I don't remember what I said last time. I don't remember I don't remember the topic I was talking about or anything like that, to be honest. To be completely honest. I'm gonna make this quick. I don't really have much to say today. I feel like I have less words today than I did the last time I did this. I was hoping to turn this video into something with a little more effort, like, you know, show clips of any references I need or things I'm talking about, like moments in my life, because I do document and film myself a lot, even when I'm not really doing much. So I was hoping to put some clips in between while I talk, but I don't know if I'll be able to because it's just going to take a lot of time. And I want this video to come out as soon as possible for the new year, so I don't sit on it and then, you know, never get the chance to finish it. So I'm not ahead of myself enough to do that. So I hopefully next year I can work a little harder and get ahead enough that I have the time to work on a video like this again, but with a little bit more effort put into it. There are people home, so I apologize if I'm quiet or not as vocal about certain things. If they hear me, they hear me. I don't care. But yeah, I'm sure you could hear the background noise. Yeah, so I was supposed to be, my friends are at one of my friends' cottage right now. I was supposed to go, but I decided to cancel last minute to get this video done. So, yeah, some might say that's sad. And I think in what is perceived as a normal life or in a normal world by a normal person, that would be sad. But in my world, it's the right thing to do, and it's the only appropriate thing to do. So, July. What was July like? Oh, right. Yeah. So, I think this is where I left off. Yeah. So July. Okay. So. July was started off well, and then as you can see, there's a lot of zeros. There was there's a lot of zeros, a lot of time taken off. Reason being is at that time my nonno passed away, so it was a pretty difficult time in my life and in everyone's life, my whole family's life basically. It was weird. it was a very weird time. Um, it was hard to see him go because my entire life he was such a strong person. He's a very dependable man. And when someone that you put on a pedestal goes away and isn't coming back, yeah, it's a weird thing to kind of try and grasp and sit with. So I kind of, at that point in my life, I remember telling myself I have two options. You know, I can kind of um, continue to work or do whatever I'm doing and let the emotions sit in the back and then maybe come to the surface uh, at a point in my life where I wouldn't want them to, or I can kind of just let these emotions settle and sit with them for as long as I need to for the time being. And I think I did a healthy choice I made the healthy decision, which was to just go for walks, um, just let myself kind of understand it, if that makes sense, and kind of sit with it. So, a lot of walks during that time, a lot of just thinking to myself, spending time with myself. Um, the only difference I think I would have made was continue to work out and whatnot, because I don't think. So funny enough, if you look here, you could see like I think it was the 17th he passed away, but you could see I was doing a workout and running until I stopped and decided. I think this was maybe his funeral day. I stopped. So originally, when he had first passed, or I think when we first realized he wasn't going to make it much longer, there was like a voice in my head saying, okay, now you have to step up and not take his place, but be the man that people looked at him as. You need to fill that gap in people's lives. And that was kind of an unnecessary pressure. I think that was just it's not true. I don't have to do that. I'm very much my own person, but I shouldn't. It's not healthy to think you need to be not a replacement, but it's hard to explain this. It's hard. You just shouldn't try and be something for other people. And I think that's kind of what I was thinking to myself is I'm not doing this for myself, but I'm doing this for others. And then the emotions kind of hit a breaking point on the 22nd or the 23rd. And yeah, I just said, no, don't do that to yourself. That's not a good mindset, and it's not healthy to think like that. You're you. The person you loved and the person everyone really, really admired is gone, but he could still be with you. Just take the time to understand it and let things settle. And that's kind of what I did from there. But yeah, I think had I done anything differently, I kind of fell back. I fell into a pretty bad rut on these couple days, trying to let things settle. I went for walks. I tried to clear my mind, but ultimately, when you don't do anything, you just kind of make room for all the bad habits to come back, and come back they did. I wasn't really eating well. I wasn't doing anything productive for myself. Even like I said before, I'm pretty sure I talked about this before, like a productive break. I didn't really do that. It was a very unhealthy break. And while I let the emotions settle, I didn't come out of it feeling physically and mentally better, in the sense that there was a lot. I took a lot of steps down from where I was. And that was pretty much it. But come the end of that week, I kind of said, yeah, this was actually a pretty crazy month now that I'm thinking about it. Come the end of that week, I realized I was starting to spiral, and I had accepted the way things were. I had come to terms with them, and I appreciated everything, every moment I had with him. But now, the bad habits, now I wanted to get better, and the bad habits were telling me, essentially, like, were holding me captive, saying, well, you made the decision to slack off, now we're going to take control. And it was at that point where I could choose, okay, is this going to be the end of my effort for the year? Am I going to let this moment define me for the rest of the year, or am I going to try again? Just pick it up one at a time, one step at a time, and return to where I was. And I think I answered appropriately. There was a lot of ups and downs, but yeah. During the summer too, I think I said this before, a lot of time spent with friends, especially around here. A lot of come August, you'll see more. A lot of time spent with friends, and most of it good. Some of it, to be honest, regrettable, because I remember there were a lot of weekends where I felt stuck because I was just hanging out with friends and I wasn't getting anything done, and that feeling was eating at me. We'll talk more about that in August. I don't want to get too carried away here, but yeah, then you could see it got a bit better, or it started to move back upwards from the 27th on. And yeah, that was July. A very emotional month, but one that I think was needed. I mean, not my no passing, but needed in the sense that I needed to see, is this me now, or is this just a facade? Am I just doing this for a temporary time, or is this what I want my life to be now? And I think getting back up was the answer to that question. Then we have August. August was not a particularly healthy month, sorry. Oh shit, hopefully it wasn't too quiet. Yeah, work-wise, it was okay. Some lackluster days, some decent days, no good days. I wouldn't say there were any good days in August, and that was definitely disappointing. Still very much battling the bad habits I developed in a week, which if I want that to kind of set in perspective for you, is in the matter of a week of not trying, I developed bad habits that, to be honest, I'm still struggling with today. Like, sleep schedule has been horrible, like the worst it's ever been. Look at this. It's a 1:30 where I didn't do anything that day. I worked for 4 hours. You can see the relationship between how much you work and how good your discipline is that day. You start the day off well, you'll get a lot done. If you start it off poorly, you're going to feel like you wasted a day. So, yeah, I mean, I don't remember if there's much to say about August, but yeah, those emotions and that lack of discipline from the week prior was really took its toll on me. So, again, to emphasize the lesson that I learned the hard way, is you need to be disciplined every single day, every single moment, and every single second. Whether you're choosing what to eat, whether you're deciding what to do next, whether you want to rename your file for something you're working on, whether you want to do the work of brushing your teeth, whether you want to, everything matters. Everything matters. And you need to be disciplined enough to make the right choice in every single moment. because every time you don't, you're just working for the opposing side. It's not a matter of giving yourself a break. There is no break. You cannot take a break. A break does not exist. I don't believe in breaks. I know that's contradictory to what we saw from last month, but I don't believe, I don't believe, I guess in the traditional sense of what people think a break is, that's not a good idea. Again, a break needs to be equally as productive as when you work, and you need to be equally as disciplined on your break as you do when you're in a more stressful situation in your life, or a more valuable or important situation in your life. And the reality is it's all valuable. You know, like I said, what do you do on your break? Choosing to read is discipline instead of watching a YouTube video. Choosing to work out instead of playing a video game is discipline. All of it matters, so you cannot slack at any second, because, like I said, when you do, you work for the opposing side. So, that's pretty much it. That was the big takeaway from the month. September. Now, September was a fun year. I keep saying year. A fun month. I think I kind of found my. So I want to say July, or maybe even earlier. There was many factors that made me feel the way I'm about to discuss now, but I want to say it started in July, maybe June. But between, I think the feeling started with seeing friends go out in the summer, and kind of declining a lot of times to go out, or even, volleyball. That was a lot of fun, but I think that gave me the crumb of going out during the summer, and it just gave me the bug. I wish I could go out. I wish I could go out. I didn't most times, but come August, like I said, I did. And I think through that repetitive, constantly making the decision I know I shouldn't be, led me to feeling lost. And I had started this year wanting to do one thing: just make my worst days better. But in terms of work, I wanted to get a lot of projects done and improve. And one of the biggest projects I was working on and I was hoping to have done was the tennis documentary. To put it into perspective, it's not done still. So, yeah, that's a pretty big defeat for me at the moment. But I didn't do nothing in the meantime. I was just kind of stepping around that project, doing other projects and improving. But ultimately, I can only improve so much without attacking the thing I know I need to do head on. So, that's a topic for maybe at the end of the wrap up. But, yeah, working on that project, the documentary, it filled me with a lot of purpose. I know documentary is what I want to do. It made me feel like I was working in the right direction. And, you can do if, buts, or whatever. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I think that's the saying. I probably would have been a lot sharper than I am now had I finished it. I think a lot of people wouldn't doubt me as much had I finished it. But ultimately, that's the choice I made, and that's the choice I have to live with. And I just need to continue to try to, one, get it done, but two, improve from here on out, and not let something like that happen again. But like I said, I was working on that from a bit in January. Then February, I worked on the six destinations, 6 different styles video. And after February, I wrapped that up and I went back to the documentary and I worked on it for, I want to say, 2 months. And then I burnt out and I was frustrated and it wasn't going in the direction I wanted to. It didn't turn out the way I wanted to so far, and blah blah blah. I let the emotions of I let the emotions I had invested in the project get the better of me. And so from that point onward, from May, I want to say May's the month I just started working on other things, and then it was fulfilling working on other things, but eventually, without working on the documentary again and knowing that's something I had to do, I kind of felt as though I had lost a bit of my purpose and a bit of direction. I felt kind of stuck. This entire year, there's just been a ceiling on my head, which is this documentary. It's just been constantly lingering over me everywhere I go. No matter what else I decide to do, like, you can't shake it. It needs to be completed to move on to what feels like the next part of my life. And that's why the sooner I can get my hands on it again, the better. And that's, in that sense, like, knowing I would need to just finish it, like, whether it's good or bad, just get it done. Put your best effort, do the best you can, everything you can. Sorry for the voice crack. In that regard, it's motivated me again. But yeah, from slowly starting from May, my kind of purpose, or like my waking up in the morning became less enthusiastic. I had less like of a jump in my step, and you can kind of see, like, especially with the fitness, yeah, things just start to, here we go. You know, there's just less fitness in a month. That's about the same hours, to be honest. But yeah, just not being 100% every day, like I was closer to January, February, March. Yeah, and that kind of took a bit of soul out of me for those months. So, yeah. Anyways, the point I was making is, come September, I don't remember what sparked it. Sorry, I went for a water break. Yeah, so come September, I can't remember what sparked it, but I kind of. Oh, right. I throughout this year, I got really into color grading, as what seems like most bedroom content creators do. I'm not a content creator. Please do not call me that. I just enjoy making videos, and I would like to get into documentary. So please do not call me a content creator. But that is, if I'm being completely honest with myself, what I am at this point in my career in terms of skill. I have the same skill as most bedroom content creators that you see on YouTube, which is fine because they are very talented, but that's not good enough for me, so I'm trying to get better. Anyways, besides the point. I got really into color grading, like I said. I started learning more of it, how to use certain programs for it, and I started doing a research paper on it in September. And something about that sparked me again, in the sense that I kind of found purpose again. I don't know if I want to be a colorist per se. However, if anyone has coloring jobs and they would like someone to color their projects for them, please hit me up. I would love to do that. But I think it was just something really fun to learn, and yeah, it got me up and out of bed again with like excitement. Mind you, my sleep schedule is still pretty bad this month. As you can see, I'm starting to wake up. It's starting to fade. 11, stuff like that. Yeah, not very good. Not good at all, actually. But working was okay. Some good days, some really bad days. But we showed up. Oh, I thought we showed up every day. No, we didn't. There's a 0 there. Yeah, there's a lot of. Actually, I'll save that for the end of the thing. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So September kind of sparked me again, and I was sorry. My mom is yelling her ass off right now. She does this a lot, and I apologize, but I need to finish this video. So if you hear that, I'm sorry. She's talking to herself, by the way. She's literally not talking to anyone. Okay. October was another fun month. Or maybe this month was the month I started the research paper. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Actually, no, never mind. So anyways, what was so, this month looks not very good, but I actually promise you it was a lot better than it looks, because I didn't really get to track my week from, I mean, you can see it here, like I didn't track, but it was very busy, it was very fucked. I track the workouts these days, but yeah, from here I didn't really track that well because I was away with my family in Arizona, and I didn't track there. To be honest, this trip was really needed because though September gave me a purpose, a sense of purpose again, I still didn't have the understanding or the concept of what I was doing with my time, which is funny to say because at the start of the year I had a pretty good understanding of what I was doing with my time. But you can lose perspective. And I didn't realize that until this trip came around, but I realized that that sounded, the way I said that sounded so like corny. I realized that, sorry, let me just start my timer again. I realized that I enjoyed living. Like I enjoyed the passion of life and the passion of waking up with a reason to wake up. Waking up with a motivation to move forward and waking up with the discipline to make the right decisions. And yeah, that trip was like the first trip in my life where I didn't slack off because I was on a trip, you know? Like, to put it in perspective for you, you know how when you're on vacation you think, oh, I can just sleep in, I'll just sit on the beach all day and whatnot. No, I really had a mission on this trip to keep myself healthy, keep myself busy, keep myself motivated, and keep myself thinking. And it's really easy not to do those things on a vacation. I think the way people have, the idea of a vacation in their mind is very gluttonous, very excessive in feeding it devices, which is not healthy. And then that's why a lot of people come back from vacation feeling burnt out or not rested enough is because they don't actually rest and keep themselves productive while they're resting. They go and make themselves weaker. And that's not, I mean, compare yourself, let's say someone that didn't take the week off to go away. Let's say I took the 13th to the 19th off to go away, and I come back, and on the 20th I have to work. What makes me think just because I took time off I'm going to be better off than the person that continued to work through the 13th to the 19th? First of all, they'll be ahead. they'll be working on the next thing they need to because they'll have had that week to finish whatever I didn't finish from taking that week off. Second of all, they'll have had instilled the discipline in themselves to continue to work and to continue to keep up their daily habits instead of eating whatever I want, sleeping in as long as I want, waking up whenever I want, doing whatever I want. It's not about what you want, it's about what you need to do. And the person that worked that week did what they needed to do. I had a lot of arguments through this year. Actually, I'll save that for later. There's a lot of points I need to save for later that I don't know if I'll remember. Anyways, even though I just made a point about how it's better to the person that doesn't take the week off is better off, I think for me at this point it was necessary to realize and kind of relearn the perspective of, I have this thing I like to tell myself, leave no life wasted. That sounded really corny, but it's true. I don't want to leave life wasted. Don't leave anything on the table. And this year's been full of things left on the table, as you can tell, I'm sure. But it's definitely a step forward, which is good. I think for me that week was important to realize that, I kind of understand that again. Don't leave anything on the table. Don't give yourself a moment to regret what you did. So yeah, I came back from that trip feeling really excited. Not motivated, because I think if I was motivated it would have waned and died out pretty quickly. But I was excited. I was excited to get back and start working on things again. I was excited to work on something I was proud of. Actually, funny enough, I forced my poor dad, because my mom is crazy and doesn't think a 23-year-old can go travel, drive 40 minutes away in Arizona alone with a GPS on to take morning photography in landscape shots when the sun rises. So she forced my dad to go with me. But anyways, I forced my dad to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get sunrise pictures on the last day of the trip, because it was the only chance I had, because the rest of it was filled with family, where I had gone in trails and shot other things. And yeah, that was the first time I had ever done that on a trip, and that's something I always, in the back of my mind, I always wanted to do, was on a family trip, even if I'm with family, do my own thing. And I felt like this trip I really did do my own thing for the most part. There's limits. At the end of the day, you're there. It was for my dad's birthday, so I can't just fuck off the entire time. Nor would they actually let me. Something I'll discuss later is the chains that family can put on you and the leash they can have on people that just are kids trying to express themselves and need the freedom to do that. But yeah, that was the first time in a trip where I felt like I had I made a checklist before the trip, and I had gone through most of it. Not everything, but most of it for sure. Anyways, also saw the Grand Canyon. That was really cool. Surreal. Yeah, that was surreal. So, solid trip all around. But yeah, I came back very excited. And nowhere is that better seen. This is actually surprising looking at this, because I haven't looked at these calendars. But nowhere is that more surprising than my November calendar. Oh, wait. Wait, what? November was the vacation? Oh. Wait, what? Oh my god, I'm stupid. Didn't we go in October? No, this isn't right. What the fuck? Vacation in November? No. This doesn't add up to me. Hold on, let me check my calendar. Oh, it was my dad's birthday's in November. Oops. Mm-hmm. Whoa. Okay, that's kind of crazy. That Arizona trip felt like it was a lot longer ago than I thought. Okay, so take everything I said about October and apply it to here. I don't remember what that was about then. I think I was just really busy. Oh, okay, I do remember. So swap November and October. But yeah, you could see November was a very, very fulfilling month for me. Like I felt in control again, and yeah, put things were really put into perspective for me. But October, then I remember what happened. My cousin had moved in with us due to family reasons, and um, it was very, very difficult and draining at the time to try and manage both my dreams and aspirations, projects I was working on for money, and then my own personal work. Or sorry, that was dreams, and also she had just gotten a job, and to kind of settle her in, I was driving her to and from, um, picking her up and stuff, and helping her just get kind of acclimatized to living with us. And yeah, so that was a very, very, oh man, I remember being exhausted in October. That was like, yeah, that was a lot. So that's why the zeros here, let me pull it up again. I remember that's why the fitness took a hit on the second half of the month. And also, that's why I didn't track this, because I remember that's when she first arrived, or first came to live with us, and that was like hectic. I remember being very frustrated around this point, not because of her. You know, you can't be frustrated because that's just circumstances, but I was frustrated because I felt like I just when you kind of put your passions on a back burner, or the things you want from yourself on the back burner, it just gets very frustrating not making progress. So it's not because of anyone, not because of that was the circumstances, and that's just the way life goes sometimes. Life puts you through shit. You just have to accept it and keep going, keep putting your best foot forward. Even if you don't make progress at a certain time, it's okay. This was put in front of you by your just life and the way things are. This isn't in your control, so you can't get yourself riled up over it. That was something I learned. That was what I learned in October. Now apply what I said to October about October 4, apply it to November, and we can move on. Anyways, yeah. So after that frustration, or like, helping her out, finally getting a chance to have time to work on my stuff again. You can see I didn't waste too much time, all things considered. And then yeah, we went on the trip. The trip put things into perspective again. I kind of fell back in love with fitness over the trip, and I realized I wanted to be the person I saw myself as at the beginning of the year. Like, I really wanted to be that person. So I didn't waste time in pursuing that. Okay, now that brings us to December, which is still on my wall. And I'll insert a video of it when I finish it, which is in a day. But it was a pretty good month. Obviously, around Christmas, things get busy and it's hard to keep up. But yeah, I think I ended strong, and I'm happy about that. I didn't end perfectly as good as I could have, and in that way, that's disappointing. But in that regard, it is disappointing to look back at. But for the most part, I'm proud. Um, yeah, for the most part, I'm proud. I don't know if there's much to say about December besides the fact that it's left me pretty excited for the new year and all the potential I still have to grow and improve from the year that I've had. And that's pretty much it. Now, it's time for the final thoughts. It's time to wrap it all up. So, how was the year as a whole? Now, there's a lot I want to discuss. The first thing that comes to my mind is, well, what's next? That was this year. What's next for next year? So, like I said, my mission for this year was to improve my bad days. And I really do think I did that. With an asterisk, because on days where things were really bad, I still had a hard time getting up. I still had trouble pushing forward or continuing to do good for myself. However, again, with another asterisk, if only I had these charts from last year, but I really did improve. And I can say that confidently. What felt like years of wasted time, I don't get that feeling from this year. I do get a lingering sense of unsatisfaction from the year as a whole, from this year. But that's a step in the right direction compared to feeling empty from the years before. So, I think, as opposed to where I had maybe only worked hard 2 months out of the year in 2023 and before, 2024, I felt like there were only maybe 2 or 3 months where I started to wane. And though I don't want to celebrate that, because it's still unacceptable that happened, I can rejoice in knowing that things will continue to get better. And I'm confident enough to know that I'll make those decisions for myself, because I've proven it to myself enough through the year to know I'm capable. Now, something else I want to mention. Oh, I didn't even finish my thought. So, what is next for 2025? What's next for the next year? What's the mission? So, did I improve my bad days? I want to say yeah. For the most part, I did. Was it perfect? No. But it's time to move forward on to the next step and the next stage of my life, which is not to improve bad days, although that's something, you should never let go of the thing you tried to do the previous year. So you're just building on top of what you did the last year. So on top of improving my bad days, this next year is more about focus. Working for 10 hours in a day is great and all, but what are you doing in that 10 hours? Are you working on the right thing? Are you working on the thing you know you need to do? Or are you sidetracking yourself with a project, moving in a side step instead of a step forward, That is what 2025 is going to be focused on. Though it's always a priority to waste less time, my biggest priority for the next year to come will be to really be strict on myself about what it is that I'm doing. Spending time working on the right things, taking the right steps, and focusing on the parts that I am weak at, not being afraid to step into that uncomfortable, unknown territory, not being afraid to do the things that are hard to do, not being afraid of maybe not succeeding in that. And that is my goal for the year, is to focus on what I'm doing with my time. Those 10 hours weren't just 10 hours of me clicking buttons in After Effects trying to learn something new, but it was 10 hours of working on the documentary, 10 hours of producing and doing the pre-production for the next documentary, 10 hours of script writing, something I suck at, 10 hours of lighting, something I also suck at, 10 hours of, focused effort. And next year is all about focused effort. And I don't think enough people, there's a lot of people that work hard, but not enough people focus on the right things. And you see where people go wrong a lot in that regard. A lot of hard-working people that just can't seem to make things click. It's because they're not doing the right things for themselves, or they're not. As much as life is about hard work, it's also about strategy. Strategize your day. Strategize how you're going to learn something. Creating a study guide, creating a cheat sheet for yourself in regards to like life. You need to implement strategy instead of just moving from thing to thing and darting across the floor and pushing each one forward by inches instead of meters and miles like you could if you just stayed focused. You know, it happens all the time. People that do way too much. It's unfortunate sometimes because a lot of people that do that aren't aware they're doing it. They just think, I'm working hard, it's going to come. But that's not true. Like, I've been fortunate enough to be around enough people, hardworking people, to know, to have learned this. And it's something I picked up really quickly on the people that I've worked with that are hardworking and successful versus the people that I've worked with that are hardworking and scattered. I used to work for a Toronto-based influencer, and he was one of the hardest working people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. But he was so unfocused and all over the place. I saw him not too long ago, and we were just catching up. And I remember even when I worked with him, when he would explain his plan to me, I literally did not understand a single thing he was saying. Like, it was so convoluted. It was so jumbled and so only he could understand it. Nobody else would understand what he's talking about. And I caught up with him not too long ago, and it was the exact same. Not a single thing had changed. I'd ask him, like, hey, what are you doing? Like, are you going to get back into it? Because he had stopped after I stopped working with him and whatnot. And he explained his plan. He's like, yeah, I want to get back into it. This is what I think I'm going to do. And again, it did not make any sense to me. Like 50 million things going through his mind at once. And my biggest drawback from work, when I was working with him, and the biggest thing that frustrated me, I remember talking about this with my brother. And even my brother said the same things. Just how there's no one lane he was in. He was in 15 million different lanes at once, trying to make them all work, and it just wasn't going to work. I remember bringing that idea up to him a couple of times, saying, hey man, like, I don't know if this is going to work, like, we should just focus on this. And he would agree, but he wouldn't implement that. So then at a certain point, I just said, okay, this isn't going to work. Like, I know it's not going to work, so I stopped. At the right time. I really did. I'm proud of myself for stopping at the right time. It was met with a lot of pushback, but I made the right decision for myself. Anyways, then I had the chance to shoot the documentary, which the tennis one that I'm still working on, and I got to be around my cousin and his kid that he coaches, and it's pure focus in the right areas, and it's why he's so successful and why he continues to be so successful in his coaching career. That's why he's so sought after as a coach. It's why he's so regarded. Mind you, that doesn't come easily. You don't just realize, like, he knows when he meets a kid, he knows exactly what they need to improve first, and then the steps it's going to take to develop them into a strong player, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, playing into the strengths and minimizing the weakness. he just understands that part of the game and part of the kids so well. Um, and like I said, like I was going to say, it doesn't come easy. He doesn't just see a kid, tell them what to do, and it works out. But it comes with a lot of mental tax on his part as well, having to try and enforce that game into a kid, that mindset into a kid, without trying to hammer it, without trying to kill them. Like he understands at the same time they are kids. So developing that, what he wants to see in them, it takes so much effort and time and discipline. And I don't really know where I'm going with this, but yeah, it's just, that's the difference. That's the difference. Is the reason my cousin has become so successful is because he knows what to focus on. And the difference between the difference with the influencer I used to work with was that there was no focus. And that's why we didn't see success as fast as we could have. And I think that was genuinely my biggest issue this year, is lack of focus. I mean, you heard me mention it. Come May, I started working on other projects, and I didn't sit down, have the discipline to just get the documentary done. And I'm probably worse for it, but I know now. So there's always a plus to it. And it happened. I gotta move on. Like, I can't cry about it. So, yeah, that's what this next year is going to be about. Focus. Focus, focus, focus on the right things, on the things that matter, on the things you need to do. Because everyone knows what they need to do, but so many people just don't even give them the chance to do it. Give themselves the chance to do it, and that's so sad. But I'm not going to be someone that lets myself get sidetracked by what other people want from me, and there was some of that, and that kind of that kind of smoothly brings me to the next topic. Good job, me. Family. Let's talk about expectations from friends and family, and living at home, and what that can do to someone when they don't take a route most comfortable to them, the people that they love. This year was faced with a lot of arguments. I can't express enough how mentally exhausting it is to have to explain to family or friends maybe once a week why you can't do something, why you made a certain decision, why you think the way you do, why you choose to live the way you are currently living. Why? And it doesn't matter how many times you try to explain something, nobody gets it and nobody will understand it. And that's the reality of the life you live in. That is the reality everyone lives in. Nobody cares, okay? Nobody cares. Stop waiting for someone or looking for someone to care. They don't. You need to do it for yourself, okay? Because with every decision I've made, okay, let me go back a couple years. Something that always frustrated me was that I never felt like I was choosing to do something for myself. When I took a year off, I knew at that point I didn't want to go to school. But there was a constant narrative from between my brother and sister going to school and what my parents expected, what family expected, what friends were doing, that I needed to try. Okay, maybe I just need to take a year off. Let me try and figure out what I want to do. Let me try to go to school. I tried. I lasted 2 years, and I ended with the same results. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. Mind you, a lot of it is my own fault because I just didn't have discipline or any sort of responsibility at the time. So it's not totally them to blame, but I always knew I would be okay once I got the chance to make my own decisions, make my own life, make my own rules, and where nobody else is responsible for me. I knew I would be okay at that point. Even in high school, when I hated high school, I knew that. I knew once I got out of high school, I didn't think I'm gonna go to college. I just thought, okay, once I'm out of high school, I can improve my life because I don't have this necessity, this like constant thing telling me what I need to do, telling me what I need to do. I can choose what I need to do for myself. And I didn't, after high school, I took the year off. Going to post-secondary wasn't even something I thought about. It wasn't even something that I had lined up in my head in the way I wanted to see myself in a couple years. But I tried it anyways after the year off because it was what was expected of me. And if I could, if I had footage and if I could make a documentary of my life in high school, like the amount, like my dad wanted to kill me, almost literally kill me. Like I remember standing in this room, my mom protecting me from my dad because my dad wanted to, he's like eyes wide, chasing after me, waiting to rip my head off. I think I missed an assignment or something, waiting to kill me. I remember the day I decided to take a year off, my dad sat me down in the car and he told me, you need to get a job. You need to do this. And he's right. No, he was absolutely right. Obviously, I'm not going to not have a job on the year off. That's just, that's bad. But again, it was that forcefulness. Like, this is what you need to do. There was no breathing room in the sense like, there was no breathing room in the sense where I just gotten out of high school where things were, I was told what to do in high school. I just gotten out of, now, I have my freedom in this year off, but I have another force telling me what to do. So there was no breathing room in that sense. But I understand the fear from my parents' side. You don't, at that point you're desperate because, all signs point towards a failure. And I completely understand that, and they just don't want me to be a failure. And that feeling is felt deeply, trust me. Like, I feel that, I understand that's a concern. And I'll continue with the story. But, so then, took the year off, then I went to Sheridan for 2 years. I went through a period of I wasn't depressed, but I was just really careless and unmotivated and had no purpose. I was in school for the thing I was going to end up doing anyways. I knew that. But I wanted to do it my way. I wanted to learn the way I think I should be learning, and the way and attack the things I thought I should be attacking first. And a lot of what I thought I needed to do had to do with life first and education second. I needed to be able to be a civilian before I could be educated. But that's not the way I was expected to go. So I gave it 2 years. I remember being on the phone with my parents crying, bawling my eyes out, saying, I can't do this. This is not, for me, this is not where I need to be. Please, I need to be done. I don't want to do this anymore. And they said, okay, come home. You don't have to go to school anymore. Take some time, take the term off, because this was second year after first term, when we just started the second term. I put my parents through a lot. Constantly moving. There's another moving situation later, but we'll get into that. I moved into the apartment at Sheridan, and then so I came home, and I stayed home for the second term, and then I enrolled again in school. I went to Humber this time because that's what was expected of me. At this point, my parents were a lot more lenient. They didn't try to force things on me, but they were just like, maybe you want to go to a different school. Maybe this school wasn't the right one for you. Try a different one. Throughout all this, I knew it wasn't the school. It wasn't necessarily the people. It was just the space. Like, it's not. I need to be in my world, and that sounds horrible. But I think if my world is any proof of improvement, I think it's the right decision for me. But I went to Humber, and I moved in at that time with my friend David, because he had this vision for us to like live together and work together, and I thought, okay, I can believe in that. So we moved in together. Then I started Humber, and living away from the family was good for me because it was in that apartment where I learned a lot about who I expect myself to be. And then going to Humber, I went for a week, and after a week I stopped showing up. And then I dropped out. I think in the first 3 weeks, because past 3 weeks you have to pay you have to pay more of your tuition. So I didn't want to waste my parents' money, but I wasted a lot of their money. I wasted a lot of their time. And this was at the point where I decided to start documenting my life, because I had a realization of an expectation for myself that I had kind of opened the first door in the many that needed to be opened to becoming the person I wanted to see, the person I wanted to be, who I wanted to be at a given time in my life. And I knew that first door open was what I was waiting to open for, it was like 5-6 years at that point. It was the potential I always knew I had, and I cracked the first barrier in it, which was deciding to choose for myself to not go to school. That was the first barrier in my life that I forcefully broke down. And I was at that point, nobody said anything. They said, you know what, Nick, if that's what you want to do, then go ahead and do it. And I did. And yeah, that was 2022. From that point onward, I have been slowly trying to get better one day at a time. Developing wasn't something that happened overnight. I wasn't going to wake up tomorrow being the better version of myself. So I gave myself the time I needed to develop. I focused on one thing at a time. First thing was consistency. I need more consistency in my life. Then there was balance. I need more balance in my life. Then it was adulthood. I need to do more things that were in line with an adult. Then it was independence. I needed to be more independent. Then it was, better, worse days. Then it was being uncomfortable, and I put myself to be more uncomfortable, and now it's about focus. So I'm going to put myself in position to be more focused. Point being is there's constantly arguing. I don't remember what the point I was trying to make is. I think I was talking about arguments, right? So yeah, after I decided I'm not going back to school, I was applying to jobs, and I applied for the startup ad agency or creative agency, and I had the opportunity to go and help them as, like, I guess, a trial run. Mind you, I don't know how much of a trial run it was, more than it was just using me. But I went there and I met my then boss, or who would become my boss, um, through a kind of conference slash meeting with all the creators, the young creators they had worked with before, and I knew him from through mutuals, um, so it was a surprise to see him there, and then we just caught up, and he told me what his plan was, and he's like, "Hey, like, do you want to do this?" And that was kind of the first choice I made, where I was really uncomfortable. Like, am I good enough? Do I have what it takes to do this? Am I the right person? But I shut it all down, and I just said yes, I want to do this. So 6 months later, worked with him for 6 months. Put myself in a lot of uncomfortable positions. Worked hard for, I feel like, what was possibly the first time in my life. And then, like I said, it got to a point 6 months later where I didn't see this progressing. Not so much for the business and the success of it, but for myself. Through every point, I've made a decision, or I've thought about myself, even in moments where I was struggling, or moments I didn't think highly of myself. I always knew that I always thought about what was right for my development. When I didn't enjoy high school, when I didn't want to go to college, it wasn't out of selfishness. It wasn't out of the thought of giving up. There was never a reason for it. But it's easy to see it that way, and I understand that looking back. But it was out of what is best for me, what is out of my best interest to do for myself. And 6 months in, I didn't feel like I was learning or developing my skill set. And I knew my time was valuable. I knew that I needed to continue to work on the things I needed to actually do for myself, regardless of money, regardless of position, status, whatever it did for me publicly. I didn't care about that stuff, and I continue to think that way to this day. So I told them I don't think I'll be continuing. And I told my family that, and then I think the friends of our mutuals found out, and yeah, there was just this. I remember when I told them I had decided to leave, there was this silent disappointment. Like, here he goes again. He's giving up again. He's falling back on his bad habits. That was very hard to deal with, because at that point I didn't know in myself if that was true or not. I knew why I did it. I knew it was the right decision for me, but all the silence and the things being said without things being said convinced me maybe I am giving up. But regardless, I didn't let it sway my decision, and I made that decision, and I moved forward as the way I thought I should move forward. I just worked on my own things. I worked on a documentary, a short documentary, and I felt like I did take the right steps. I developed the right ways. I realized there is so much I don't know, and I still have to learn. And then I just continued to work on my own stuff. And every time I would work on my own stuff, it was, why are you doing this? Why are you making this decision? Why don't you go get a job? Why don't you, maybe you should go back to school, maybe, what's your plan? What's your goal? A lot of people looking at me like I have nothing in my head. That one really stung. A lot of people looking at me like I was empty inside. And um, I remember we had gone away on a trip in June of last year, and I spent a lot of time filming on my own, taking pictures on my own for a video I had planned before the trip and envisioned making when I went on the trip, which was the 6 destinations, 6 different styles video that I ended up making a whole 6 months later. But I remember just the constant feeling of judgment, and then yeah, there was just a lot of judgment. When I spent a lot of time alone on that trip, getting footage for myself, taking pictures. I remember coming back from the trip and people being like, "Oh my God, let me see what you got. Let's see the pictures you took." And I would show them. It was a lot of landscape photography or landscape videography, and they were expecting to see themselves. And at that point, I realized, oh, yeah, I'm not doing what people are expecting. Yeah, at that point, I realized, okay, I clearly don't do what people expect me to, so I'm just not going to try. And that was a big eye opener for how much I realized how selfish people can be. And then yeah, a lot of yeah, and throughout the rest of the time, I'll try and pick it up a bit because this story's getting a little long and I'm getting tired. But yeah, then throughout there were opportunities here and there. A lot of them I said no to, and um, a lot of whys. Like, why did you say no? That what could have been your start. That could have been the thing that got you off your feet. More recently, I had a job offer. The people I applied to a job for, they're ready to write me a contract, and right before they did, I said no, I don't want this job, and that was yeah, regrettably, I exploded a bit on my dad for because yeah, I had declined that job, and I remember picking up my family from the subway because they had gone out to see a concert or whatever, and um, I remember that car ride home. This was in October, I think, or November. But I remember that car ride home was a regrettable one on my part because I let my emotions get the best of me. But essentially, my dad said, after I told him my decision to not accept the job, he said, "You quit." He said, "You quit because you didn't want to do the work. It was too much work for you to do." And I just lost it on him. Like, I fucking. At first, I was going to take it, but I remember being really fed up with people at that point because I was taking a lot of criticism. So I said, "No, you know what?" I said, "This one I'm not taking." I said, "You're gonna hold this." So I fucking lost it on him. I was yelling at him. I remember telling him, "Just shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up." I said, I knew it wasn't true. That's why I got so upset, is because it was this label just sticking on me that throughout my entire life was constantly being stuck on me for unjustified reasons. It was like people didn't even see any effort I was giving. It was constantly put aside for who I used to be. Um, and that's my own fault. I admit that's my own fault for the way I used to be, but I'm different now. And when the same label gets put on you, it's frustrating. And I know I made that decision out of the right reasons. And it's not a matter of not doing the work because I for that reason, I did the work. because I knew that criticism was coming, I did the work anyways for the company. I sent it to them, and then I decided I wasn't going to take the job. Um, and then, yeah, just hearing that just got the better of me. So I was like, no, no, this is not me. Like, you're not right. It's not true. So yeah, I lost it on. I remember driving. I remember it was extra frustrating because I had just declined a night out with my friends to work more, having been told by my family you should go out. You should, like, why are you saying no to your friends? Then only to pick them up from their night out to get criticized was like the breaking point for me. I said, no, man, this is not, like, why is life treating me this way? That was my biggest question. Is like, why, after all I've tried this year, why is life continuing to treat me this way? But anyways, that was that. So, point being, and point I realized is that there's always going to be questions from people, and nobody's going to understand your reasons as to why, and you don't have to explain them to them. You just do what you need to. A big lesson for me is to not let your emotions be invested into anything you do, but to let just your time be invested instead, and your effort be invested. That's easier said than done, to kind of work emotionlessly and work like a robot and work in a way that whether someone approves of you or not, you can keep going. It's hard to do that. I am well aware, but it's what you need to do to keep consistent and to keep your head above water, is to work without worry what others are going to think of you. But yeah, I feel like this is the first year where the cuffs have been off. So I'm excited for the next year. I don't think there's much to say other than that. I have more goals for the year. I was going to pull out my goals and show them and whatnot, but I don't think I'm going to. I think what we've covered says enough about the year as a whole. And that's it. You need to stay steady. And there's always going to be, I mean, it's not always going to be, there is everyone that doesn't understand what you're doing. And that's okay. That is completely okay. Don't let it get the best of you. Yeah. Because it's just going to leave you with regret. And yeah. So, I hope I don't ever explode again. I hope I don't ever get angered again, but we take it one day at a time. Anyways, that's all I think I wanted to say. I think I covered everything. I gotta go eat soon, so I wish you guys the best, and I hope that you guys continue the path you need to, regardless of what is expected of you, regardless of what people say about you, regardless of whether someone thinks it's the right thing for you to do or not. The worst thing you can do is live under someone else's commands. Don't let that happen to you. I see it with everyone, literally everyone. Not a single person is doing what they want to do because they want to do it. Everyone has some sort of influence from parents and what they expect of them, which is most cases friends and what they're doing, and inspirations and how they did things. Don't let all that noise bleed into your conscience and your decision making. It's the most dangerous thing that can happen to you. One of my best friends, who I love with my entire heart and life, who loves music and knows music is what he wants to do, is in school for English right now because that's an expectation of him to do. Every time I try to tell him and help him understand, you need to do what you want to do, because you're never going to be happy otherwise. He just says yes, but I'm so close to being done, might as well finish, and so on and so forth. And I understand that perspective. I do, like, I understand, and maybe that's right for him, but the way I see it is you're still giving up time to do what someone else has told you to do. And I just don't agree with that. So don't let that be you. And that's all. That's all I have to say. Continue. I hope this can be some sort of motivation, inspiration, or a sense of belonging with this video, because I know it's a very lonely path to walk when you're trying to progress in your own life. It's a very lonely path, so hopefully this can find or provide some sort of comfort for anyone that stumbles upon it and wants to move forward with their own life. And maybe you're feeling a sense of longing, a sense of frustration, a sense of disappointment. It all just means you know you didn't do enough. It all just means you know you're not doing the right thing. And I hope this can be the catalyst for you to do and make that change. With that being said, I'm going to end it there because this was long enough and I want to edit it and get it done by the New Year. So, to anyone, I love you. Take care of yourself. Look after yourself. Okay? Ciao.